Hello and welcome. My name is Amanda, and today I have for you another book tag. And this one is the Christmas song book tag that was created by Haley over at Haley and Bookland many years ago. There are 10 questions, and it's a song title with a prompt, and then you answer the question. So let's go ahead and get started. The first song is Your Mean One, Mr. Grinch, and the prompt for this is to name a villainous character you couldn't help but love. And for this, I had a little bit of a hard time deciding on a villain that I actually liked. And I am picking all of my responses based off books I've read in 2019. So for this one, I'm going with Magnus from Falling Kingdoms, just because I reread the first book this year, so I don't know yet, like if I were to have read this as just the first book, that he's maybe not as bad as he seems. But I do think that he can be a villainous creature, or not creature, character, who turns out to be not so bad. The second song is All I Want for Christmas Is You, and the prompt for this, or the question, is which book do you most hope to see under the tree? And for this, I had another difficult time answering because this year I've been buying books that I think sound good. I don't really have any books on my Christmas list this year, but I do have an Amazon wish list of books that I've shared with a couple friends. So I guess a trilogy that I really wouldn't mind getting for Christmas, just because I would like to read it in winter, is the Winter Night trilogy by Catherine Arden. I listened to The Bear and the Nightingale 2 years ago maybe, and at that point I think that was the only one in the trilogy that was out. So I haven't continued on, and I would like to reread The Bear and the Nightingale before I jump into the other two, because I feel like I missed quite a bit listening to the audiobook. Not that the narration was bad, it just was me, and kind of not knowing much about Russian-inspired fairy tales at the time. I think I missed a lot, so I would really like to reread those as physical books, or the first one at least, before continuing the series. The third song is Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and the prompt is to name a character that overcomes major obstacles and learns to believe in themselves. And for this, I'm going with Kellen from Spellslinger. I read this for the group pick for the NEWT's Magical Readathon back in August, and I enjoyed it for the most part. I did really like the character of Kellen. The main thing I didn't like was there was a bit of animal cruelty that colored my perception of the story a bit. But Kellen is raised with magic in him, and the ability to harness magic, but for whatever reason his magic isn't fully manifesting, and he isn't his bands aren't becoming solid, and he really doesn't know why, and it's revealed later in the story why. But just with that, he learns to kind of use magic as a mind game, more or less, and get the results that he wants without actually having the powers to do so. So he definitely comes into himself a lot from the start of the story to the end. The fourth song is Santa Claus is Coming to Town. This has two parts to it. So A is which character do you think would be at the top of the naughty list? And I think I answered the same sort of thing in another book tag I did earlier this month. But I'm going with Claire from Outlander, because she, the Outlander series as a whole, I read A Dragonfly in Amber up until A Breath of Snow and Ashes. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 books that I read this year, just in the series alone. And she continuously opens her mouth at inappropriate times and says things that might be okay in 1950 or 1970 something, but definitely aren't okay in 1770 something. So she needs to go on the naughty list because she needs to learn to control herself a little bit more. And then, I mean, that would take care of most of the plot and the drama within the stories and make them a lot less chunky than they are. But she definitely goes on the naughty list in my book. And then the flip side of that is, which character do you think would be at the top of the nice list? And for this, I'm going with Beth from Little Women, just because she is one of the sweetest characters I probably read about this whole year. And she doesn't want for much for herself. She really just wants for her family, and I think she definitely deserves to be at the top of the nice list. The fifth song is Frosty the Snowman, and this is Which Book Just Melts Your Heart? And for this, I'm going with 10 Blind Dates by Ashley Elston, which I actually read last week, I think. And I read it in 2 days. I could have read it in one sitting, but I was reading it on my Kindle, and I mostly read my Kindle when I'm in bed. So I couldn't stay up as late as I wanted to reading this book. But it has such a strong sense of family within it, and just bringing back family members and building their relationships even stronger and things like that. It was a lot of fun to read, and I really enjoyed it. The sixth song is Feliz Navidad, and this is to choose a book that takes place in a country other than your own. And for this, I'm going with My Grandmother Asked Me to Tell You She's Sorry by Fredrik Backman, which takes place in Sweden. And I have come to love Fredrik Backman's books so much. I've read 3 so far now, and they all take place in Sweden, and you've got kind of some overlapping characters within the stories, but they're just really good, and for me, he's an auto-buy author at this point. The seventh song is It's the Most Wonderful Time of the Year, and the question is, which holiday theme book do you use to spread the Christmas joy? I don't really have one book I associate with Christmas. I mostly have a ballet that I associate with Christmas, and it actually is a book. So for this, I'm going with The Nutcracker. So I think for that one, it just is a really good, like, nails down the start of the Christmas season for me. So I think that one is definitely a good one for spreading Christmas cheer. The eighth song is Sleigh Ride, and this question is, which fictional character would you choose to spend the holidays with? I'm going back to a family that I mentioned earlier, and I'm going to go with the March family and Little Women, just because they're such a good, wholesome bunch, and they remind me a lot of my own family, so I think it would be really nice to spend the holiday season with them. The ninth song is Baby It's Cold Outside, and the question is, which book that you didn't like would you sacrifice to a fire to warm yourself up in the cold? And for this, I'm going with the only book I DNF'd this year, which is Beauty Queens by Libba Bray. I tried listening to the audiobook, I think also during the NEWTs, and I couldn't even make it. I think I managed to make it 2 hours in, and at that point I was just done, so I DNF'd it, and I really wouldn't mind starting a fire with it, because not only is it the content for me isn't great, also the cover is just bad, so I wouldn't mind starting a fire with that one for sure. And the 10th song is Do You Hear What I Hear? Which book do you think everyone should read? So for this year, the book that I loved, I think probably the most, if not it was one of my top reads for the year, is The Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. And this is a book I had on my shelves for years and years and years and never got around to, and finally decided to pick it up on either Script or my library as an audiobook. And I listened to it and was just so absorbed in the story. So I think a lot of book lovers would love it because it's essentially a book written about a book lover. So I think a lot of people would really enjoy reading that. But that is the end of this tag. I would love to know if you've also completed it. If so, please do leave your video link down in the comments below. And if you just want to answer the questions in the comments, that would be awesome as well. So I will chat with you there until my next video. Bye.